Umasa ako na balang araw ay matutuklasan ko ang misteryo ng pamilyang Mallari.
So this is the horror film. Well, actually, dalawa sila this year for the Metro Manila Film Fest. But this is, I guess, the one that a lot of people are hyped about. Number one, dahil kay Papa P. Number two, this is based on true events. And it looks actually very scary. Warner Brothers actually distributed this film entitled Mallari, which is an entry in the Metro Manila Film Fest 2023. So let's take a look at it in this review, which actually revolves around 3 generations of Mallaris, which is actually the last name of this family. So we actually follow 3 versions of Piolo Pascual. The first is a priest who they said, and I think this is the true events part, murdered a lot of people in this province. And then the next generation after him is a filmmaker who is trying to investigate the family tree and history of the Mallaris. And then last is the present day. Actually, he's a doctor trying to prevent the visions that he has about his fiancée na mamamatay and all of these things. In order to prevent that, he's looking for this hidden room back in his ancestral home. Actually, to be honest, the first few minutes of this movie is very, very confusing. Me and my mom, when we were watching this, talagang, what's happening? You kind of have to catch up to finally understand where this film is going. And to be honest, the premise, while being very familiar, while being ultimately parang Filipino version ng Insidious, where you get the astral projection and traveling through the astral realm and may time travel elements and all of these things. While that occurs here, and it's again very familiar, again Pinoy version of that, it does have an interesting story for the most part. I like the story from the beginning. Maybe I just have to say the ending was just so ridiculous. It was just like, why? I mean, I get the point, but then I still don't understand it completely, why they chose that route for the ending. But for the most part, again, I feel like the middle portion of this film, because the beginning was a bit confusing, tas pagdating sa gitna, dun naging interesting when everything was actually being laid out clearly and mas naintindihan natin ano ba nangyayari. Now, the horror elements here, they're actually pretty cool. I mean, I was jumpy for the most part, especially for the first few minutes. There are good moments here that provide horror elements, which were actually pretty surprising. This is the touch of the Warner Brothers distribution thing. Medyo may pagka-Western flair siya and Filipino culture, history, and all of these things that actually make it very interesting. Again, there's different elements that tie up here together, like time travel and going back and forth to the astral realm and astral plane. Again, the horror elements here were surprising in my opinion. I mean, they were shocking, they were jump scares, but they were actually well received in my opinion. Even the makeup, even the horror elements that would come out was really cool. I also love the fact, however, that they really zeroed in on Filipino culture, Filipino folklores and myths and creatures that we have in our own mythologies, if you will, which is good. I mean, that means if you're distributing it through Warner Brothers, a great means for people to understand our myths and our legends and what we believe in or believed in back then, diba? Piolo Pascual and his ability to act and have 3 different distinct roles, which is difficult. I mean, if you're playing the past, the pastor, and the present, 3 different generations, you have to be very distinct in your characterization, and he was able to do that. I actually like the characterization and what he was able to, zero out from each of the Mallari characters here. Janella Salvador also held her own, especially towards the latter part of the film. I also loved specifically JC Santos. I mean, I've seen him before, but this seems like a different side to him as well. And you'll understand it when you watch the film, because I don't think I've ever seen him in such a role. I love the whole dynamics of the cast, and I love like there is that treatment of time travel and history and all of these things. To be honest, I felt like even the set design and the set pieces, the costumes, the makeup, everything was done better. I don't want to compare it to Gumburza, but it's actually better than Gumburza in terms of that. So yeah, I actually loved and enjoyed this film. Again, maybe my only criticisms would be some of the tropish jump scares.
Ate?
and then towards the end, medyo hindi ko na-enjoy yung ending. There are certain things also or moments that it was confusing in the beginning, so you need to catch up. And because of that, I give this a solid 8 out of 10. Overall, I came out enjoying this movie. I actually want to see it again because it was actually that entertaining and it was actually that fun. It's not super horrifying that you'll get nightmares, but you get a fun ride watching Mallari. As always, don't forget to make every day into an adventure. God bless, guys. Peace, and catch me on the next one.